Pete everyone, second time filming this video. Didn't like the backdrop the last time I filmed it, and I wanted to kind of put to bed the most frequently asked question not only I get, but also all my coworkers, people in other mediums of video, not just sports, and that is, what camera do you use? What camera should I buy? What camera should you buy? That is literally the number one question that everyone gets asked who does video. And today, I want to kind of discuss my opinion on what camera you should buy when getting into sports video or photography. So just rolled out of bed actually. Wanted to get this done early, got my coffee. Just to preface all of this, I'm not a gearhead. I don't think the gear you have determines much. Hard work and your talent level and your ability to learn is what is ultimately gonna progress you in your career. But gear is important to a certain extent. I wanna say that what I say in this video is my own opinion, and it's just things that I've kind of taken a keen to over the years. Certain things that I'm knowledgeable about. My opinion is not right, and you don't have to do what I do, obviously. Goes without saying, should. When buying a new camera, there's a couple factors you need to consider. One is what you want out of the camera. Are you more photo-based or are you more video-based? Do you care about a higher frame rate? Do you want a better battery life? There's a bunch of different factors you need to consider and what you want in the camera. Lenses are another thing to consider. Certain lenses are better than others, certain lenses are more expensive than others, and whatever fits your mount, that's gonna drive a lot of the quality of your content and the stuff you shoot. So that is something to consider as well. And third is the budget. Do you wanna break the bank when you first get into the industry, or do you wanna keep it a little more on the cheaper side? I get that, you know, everyone to each his own. I'm gonna give you two recommendations based upon my knowledge of kind of cameras in different price ranges that I think you should look at. So just to put this whole situation into context, there are basically 5 major brands of kind of what people use in video. If you go into the photo well at the Braves game, you will see these basic 5 brands. Number 1, the 2 most popular would be Sony, Canon, and then also Nikon as a close third probably. Then you also have cameras like the Panasonic GH4 and GH5, those are more video based. And then you also have some people using Fujifilm. I don't know many people that use Fujifilm, but it does happen. And there's also, of course, like cinema cameras like Red, Blackmagic, stuff like that, but we're not gonna discuss that in this video. The trend right now in video is mirrorless cameras, which is basically a DSLR, but it doesn't have a shutter. So it uses an image sensor and not like a traditional shutter. And to give you an idea of these different brands and what they're good at, Canon is fantastic at photo, and it always has and it always will be. The colors are great out of the camera. Sony in recent years has really been dominating the industry solely because it's great at both photo and video. Everyone else is kind of catching up, but Sony's probably the leader and the most common thing you see right now. And then Nikon does both things very well as well. I'm not too knowledgeable with Nikon because I've only used like one or two Nikon cameras, but what I've seen, I like a lot. And I know very talented shooters that use Nikon as well. And then also Panasonic GH4, GH5, like I mentioned before, great video cameras. I would highly recommend those cameras. With all that being said, when someone comes to me and asks me on Instagram or YouTube or Twitter, whatever it is, what camera should I buy to get into sports video and photography? I always say the Sony A6300 or Sony A6400. Now, what these cameras are crop sensor mirrorless cameras. And that means it doesn't use the full sensor, but these cameras still shoot 4K and 120 HD. And that, I think, is crucial to sports video. Having that high frame rate option. It's nice to have that slow motion, and that's super important when shooting sports to give you that versatility. These cameras are both very cheap, and that's why I recommend them to people getting into the industry. I think the Sony A6300, which I started on completely, I shot all my YouTube videos from 2017 to 2020 on this camera, and highly recommend it. I will stand behind that camera to the end of time. It costs about $780, $790, I think, on Amazon, which is super cheap for a camera that shoots 4K. It's basically a budget version of the Sony A7S II. It also has a 24 megapixel sensor. Images look fantastic, and the A6400 is a little bit more expensive, and they kind of resolve the overheating issue, which is a major issue on the A6300. But if you're indoors, it's not an issue at all, or if in a place where it's cold. With these two cameras, the Sony A6400 is a little bit more expensive. There's some issues that are fixed from its predecessor, and also it has a flip out screen. I will say, obviously these cameras do have cons, right? I mean, the battery life on the A6300 sucks. Like, it really does. You'll burn through 5 batteries in a baseball game. And the overheating is an obvious issue, but if it's cold or you're indoors, it's not a big deal at all. Take it with a grain of salt. Those are the two budget cameras I would recommend. You can get good lenses if you're looking for a starter lens. I got the, I think it's 24 to 118. I don't even know. F4 Sony APS-C lens. It's like $700. Pretty good lens. I really enjoyed it, and it's a good all-around piece if you want to start shooting sports video. Now, the reason I choose Sony when I recommend these cameras is because it's fantastic at both. That was ultimately what was important to me when deciding to buy a camera, and also the camera that I have now. I wanted something that was good at both, because while I am more video based, I want something that is able to shoot photos too. I want something that holds well when I'm shooting photos with my friend, or I'm hiking, or shooting clothes or something, you know? Like, I want that versatility. A little bit more expensive option if you're jumping into sports video and you want to jump straight into full frame is the Sony A7 III. That's what I'm shooting this on right now. That's what I use for all the Braves games that I've been shooting this summer. It's a fantastic camera. Battery life is great. Overheating is really not an issue unless it's really hot out. It's got a headphone jack. It's got 2 card slots. Like I said, great battery life. Shoots 4K, 120 full HD. It's all I need. And that's gonna run you about $1,700, which is a little bit more expensive. But if you do wanna jump into full frame and a nicer camera, I get it, because ultimately this is an investment, and what you put in, you're gonna get out. So if you want to jump into that, I'm totally behind that, and I think that's awesome. Yes, I know I recommended 2 Sony cameras for both a budget and a little bit more expensive option, like a mid-tier type deal, but that's just because I grew up shooting on Sony at Georgia. It's just great at both photo and video. So if you're looking to get into sports video and photography, either or, Sony A7 III, mid-tier option, and then also Sony A6300 or A6400 if you want to keep the body less than $1,000. That's just my thoughts on the matter. There's other great cameras that you can look at. If you're more video based, you can look at Panasonic GH4, GH5. That'll give you super slow motion in the GH5, the 180 frames, which is great for sports. If you're not into photo, that's a great option for you. Canon is catching up now. Don't get me wrong, the mirrorless Canon M6 and then the M6 Mark II are great cameras. They'll run you about $800, $850, I think. Obviously the Mark I's a little bit more cheaper. They pretty much do the same things as a Sony A6300, but they're a little bit more expensive. And if you wanna pay that extra $150, $200 to get it, do it, because the colors out of Canon are just beautiful, and I envy those who shoot Canon for that reason. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching as always. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about cameras, the sports videography, photography industry, leave them below. Go check out my other video, how to get into sports videography or photography. If you're interested, like and subscribe because I put in a ton of work in these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.